So this is part C of the Khudila television channel online, world exclusive diagnosis of Fleet Street, which of course entails world exclusive diagnosis of the bankrupt and immoral regime fronted by the Conservatives and the incumbent Prime Minister being Boris Johnson. Now, everything immoral and corrupt and racist is being stood on its head, and lies are being peddled as truth, and racism peddled as okay, and slavery is absolutely superb achievement. And David Cameron is glorified career of a sleazy man, and we have looked at the Private Eye cover, which has 4 pictures, and the last one on the bottom right is that of Jennifer Arcuri wearing the Union Jack, and Boris's trousers are at half mast. That is the one on the bottom right. Now, the reason I'm looking at the Private Eye again for the second time today is because of the items there. There are items on the main page of the political kind of coverage in the Private Eye, usually either page 6 or 7. There's page 7, where David Cameron's corruption and crooked lobbying of the Saudi on behalf of the racist Australian is summarized, and we have already discussed this before. But what this collection of brief updates in Private Eye magazine represents is that Britain is indeed in a dark place, very dark place, and going even darker. Since that last edition, several news outlets, online news outlets, have recognized what this slavery glorified by Munira Mirza and Tony Sewell actually represents. And it is a measure of the racist criminality, intentional racist criminality and denial by Johnson and Johnson's cabal, that even Diane Abbott, now Diane Abbott is not known for her record of being genuinely involved in opposing racism, because Diane Abbott doesn't have any record, and this is on the record, I'm saying, of solidarizing with the ordinary black population. In her case, I am referring to people from the Caribbean. And her main kind of profile or name recognizable profile was created as part of the falsehood peddled by the BBC in the now defunct Andrew Neil slot called the politics, whatever political slot it was called, the This Week on BBC One. And her main co-appearee was the racist Michael Portillo. Portillo is a Spanish name, and it is typical mark of crooked racists and self-servers that they almost predictably abandon their ancestral origins and start becoming more anti migrants, anti Asians, anti Africans than the indigenous white racist gullibles are. Look at the antics of Priti Patel and the behavior of Sajid Javid as Home Secretary before her. Of course, the Home Office has got a long record of being hostile and racist. But ordinary rational thinking would suggest that when the post of Home Secretary is held by somebody of African or Asian ancestry or legacy or origin or background, that hostility and racism would be replaced by a semblance of civilization, etc., operated from the Home Office. But it is far from the truth of what truth, as is evident in the behavior of, as I said, Sajid Javid, who took away Shamima Begum's British nationality by birth as part of his appeasing of the racists in the Conservative Party and in the Parliament. Same thing is being done by Priti Patel with her series and serial ugly policies against the migrants and the asylum seekers. Now, when Cameron was fronting the Conservative front bench, while Corbyn had just about landed the post of leader of the Labour Party, instead of dealing with Corbyn's policies, Cameron ritually and routinely insulted Corbyn and humiliated him personally in the House of Commons during the so-called Prime Minister's questions, including saying to Corbyn he should go and get himself a proper tie and a jacket or whatever. And that showed Cameron is a very nasty piece of work. So what Eddie Mair called Boris Johnson, nasty piece of work. But the direct abusive behavior by Cameron towards Corbyn left no doubt that Cameron didn't regard the House of Parliament as a place where dignified behavior was expected. And it's a mark, it's a proof, it's a vindication of my analysis, let's say, or the analysis made of Corbyn that he was intellectually very, very challenged. If Corbyn wasn't intellectually challenged, he would have totally sunk David Cameron for his insulting behavior that was unfit, that made him unfit for that post. And of course, Corbyn was also insulted by Cameron, who mocked Corbyn's short visit of the migrant stuck at Kalai. And none of that was actually condemned by any of the other MPs. None of the MPs stood up for Corbyn while Cameron was actually assailing him in the most undignified way in the House of Commons, on the floor of the House of Commons. None of the MPs, and not even John Barker, who supposedly was favoring the Labour MPs as opposed to the Conservative MPs. But now Cameron is exposed as a very, very, very undignified and pathetic, greedy parasite. No matter what kind of suits he wears, what kind of bridal cream he applies to his hair, Cameron comes across as belonging to the worst, lowest level that could be achieved. Because it says in the Times today, Wednesday, the 31st of March, that Cameron went to lobby the man in Saudi Arabia who had been few months after that man had ordered the murder of the journalist Jamal Khashoggi. And the whole world was outraged at the murder of the journalist. And yet Cameron wasn't part of the outrage. He was sucking up to the man who had ordered the murder of the journalist. And he went there sucking up to him, and he was doing that on behalf of Lex Greensill. Now, Greensill is a long-ranging or long-standing acquaintance of David Cameron, who broke rules and codes of practice and everything by appointing him an advisor to himself as Prime Minister. So Cameron was breaking the rules, the codes of conduct, ministerial codes, everything, without a care in the world, just like Boris Johnson told Jennifer Arcuri that he could do anything he liked. He didn't care. He was the mayor at the expense of London. It was his city, therefore. So he didn't care. So it's not like a one exceptional kind of breach. It's the breach of rules, breach of the law, breach of morality, ethics, and self-respect as the rule, as the dominant rule. And what does it do to show the British institutions that don't exist? There is no accountability, no ethics, no morality, no transparency at all. And you could not make a worse list in peacetime, so-called, associated with any regime, which means that you should have no hesitation, factually, in calling for this government to resign. And all those members of the House of Peers that Cameron actually inflicted and foisted must be decommissioned and thrown out of the House of Peers, because they were put there by a very discredited, corrupt criminal who was breaking the law. And it's not just Cameron. every single one of the conservatives is caught with the trousers down, as it were. Everything they're doing is corrupt, nepotistic, and criminal, and completely breaching everything, right, left, and center. So, what we shall be doing is taking a systematic look at the papers in the next few hours. And Cameron was charging for his lobbying work 120,000 pounds an hour. Just think about it. 120,000 pounds an hour.